I think it's live. Okay. I think it's live. Just gonna log in on here. Hey guys, welcome back to the tennis vlog. Sorry that the last live stream crashed. I really don't know what happened there, and I don't know if it will happen again, so big apologies if it crashes, because I wasn't aware that it did last time. Well, it says it's live, so let's see if it's actually playing. Well, there's a comment there already, thank you. If you can just leave a comment and reply to make sure it's actually playing and you can see me, because when it crashed last time, I didn't know until like a minute later. Anyway, I'll start in half a minute because I got here a bit late. Very sorry. Should really set that up beforehand. Okay, gonna go. So, welcome to the tennis vlog. Subscribe if you haven't, because I keep forgetting to say that. If you haven't subscribed, would be very helpful if you did. French Open, end of the third round. Yes, it is. It's really just like I lose track of where we are basically because of the Sunday start. It messes with it. But end of round 3. Big upsets in the last round. We had Grigor Dimitrov losing to Fernando Verdasco. Verdasco back in the 4th round of a Grand Slam, showing some consistency, oh my word. In the women's draw, Alina Svitolina beaten by Buzanescu, which I see someone has already commented on, quick to the mark, and I'll get to that in a moment. Petra Kvitova lost today, my predicted champion. I'm so lame, but she was in very good form prior to the events. Obviously won Madrid and Prague, so 2 titles, did the smart thing in skipping Rome to give herself a bit of time to recover. But I mean, as I said earlier, it's so difficult to have the timing and the draw and everything fall into place at a Grand Slam on multiple occasions. At the moment, there are only 3 active players on the WTA Tour with more than 2 Grand Slams. Kvitova has won 2 Wimbledons and she's good on clay. She's reached the French Open semi-finals before, but if she has an off day, she's gone. She's very hot and cold. Actually, Annette Kontaveit is playing incredibly well at the moment, and 2 tiebreak sets shows that one was close. So it was really an unfortunate draw for Kvitova at the moment, but there we go. I've already started rambling. They're the main big upsets, I think, from the 3rd round. If you have any that you think are particularly noteworthy, let me know. Also, on the last live stream, partly because it crashed and partly because I'm just rubbish at keeping on top of things, I didn't answer some of the questions, so I said I would do that now, which I'm going to. I just keep being scared that this stream is gonna stop because it did last time, but I think we're all good. So, some of the questions that got missed last time were, oh my word, I'm not starting with that one. I'll come back to the top one. Well, one of them was, how good could Daria Gavrilova be if Daria Gavrilova, Australian, I'm sure many of you know her. How good could Daria Gavrilova be if she cleaned up the double faults? I guess you might as well ask how good any player could be if they landed their forehand all the time, or their backhand, or yeah. But at the same time, I mean, Gavrilova's a small player, so I wouldn't consider her serve to be a massive weapon anyway. I think she's doing pretty decently for her height and making the use of the weapons that she has. Definitely it's always a good idea to clean up on double faults, especially in key moments, but a lot of the top players double fault a lot. Maria Sharapova got to 5 Grand Slam titles while double faulting approximately 30 times a match, so it's doable. But yeah, I think in Gavrilova's 2nd round match, she double faulted quite a lot, which is how that question arose. So, fair question. Um, this one was interesting. Which of the following would you be most surprised or least surprised to see win the whole tournament? And the three players mentioned were Elise Mertens, Kiki Bertens, or Annette Kontaveit. And now, since then, Kiki Bertens has lost to Angelique Kerber, which is nothing to be ashamed of because Kerber is slowly coming back to form. We know the tennis she's capable of, but disappointing for Bertens given her status as a clay court specialist, her recent run to the Madrid Open final, her run previously to the semi-finals here, which shows that this is the Grand Slam where she can do good stuff. So that was an unfortunate draw, but Bertens, a really great player on clay. One of the players who actually does try and play a distinct clay court game on the surface. She's not about hitting winners, she's about working the points and wearing her opponent down and using the width and length of the court. To answer the actual question before I forget, if all three players were still in the main draw, and I was answering this at the time I should have done, I would have said that the most surprising winner of the tournament for me would be Annette Kontaveit, because she isn't as accomplished as the other two. Hey Simran, how are you? I just saw your comment. So yeah, so Kontaveit is not as accomplished as the other two in terms of experience at Grand Slams. I mean, Mertens just reached the semi-finals in Australia. Bertens has reached the semi-final at the French Open. Also, those two players, Bertens and Mertens, I believe they were both seeded. So yeah, in general, both of them have been building up their careers more steadily than Kontaveit, who, am I pronouncing that right? Kontaveit. I'll look that one up, but yeah, she's shown promise over the years, but has not had the steady rise that those two particular players have had recently. She's picking it up in the clay court season. She had some really good wins over the likes of Venus Williams twice, Caroline Wozniacki, others who I did see earlier, but can't remember them at the present moment. It's not always great when you don't plan these things. Usually I'm pretty good for remembering stats, but I'm pretty tired at the moment, which is my lame excuse. So yeah, I would have been the most surprised to see Kontaveit win it. Least surprised probably to see Bertens win it, just because of her experience on the surface. However, Mertens was having really good results last year. She has a really good forehand, great court coverage, and I did feel that this would be her breakthrough year, which, whether she does anything else for the rest of the year, I definitely feel like this has been a breakout year for her, given her great result at the Australian Open and the way she's backed it up fairly decently. So that's that one. Yeah, I agree, Simran. Nadal is on a roll. Today was, I mean, against Richard Gasquet, he has won 15 of their 16 meetings. The only win of Gasquet's was via retirement, and they only played a set. I counted earlier, of the 40 sets they had played prior to today, Gasquet had only won 5, and Nadal got a straight sets win today, so that's now 5 of 43, which has to be intimidating and on your mind when you're coming up against Nadal, especially on clay. So yeah, it's hard to say who will really trouble Nadal, because with each round he is finding his groove a bit more. The only possible vulnerability today was at the end of the first set, when he was on a roll and could easily have won it 6-love, but then he just kind of, his first serve percentage dropped and he just wasn't as confident in striking his forehand. And Gasquet was actually getting on top of the ball and going for it a bit more, as opposed to letting Nadal's topspin dictate the way the point was played and just rallying with him, because that's exactly what Nadal likes you to do, keep it neutral, and then he can have the final say. So I don't know if Nadal's style and his spin prevented Gasquet from continuing that tactic, but it definitely looked as though Gasquet was shut out for the rest of the match. I expect Nadal to breeze through until the semi-finals. At that point, he could play Juan Martín del Potro, who is, I mean, I've always underrated del Potro on clay, but against Albert Ramos Vinolas today, he was given quite a stern test, and in the big moments he was there. He didn't let the way Ramos Vinolas was mixing up his play, it didn't let he didn't let it frustrate him. So Del Potro against Nadal, or another big server, John Isner, everyone's talking about, oh, even Marin Cilic, who's also breezing through rather nicely. Any of them could be an interesting match against Nadal, but if Nadal were to get to the final and face Zverev, Djokovic, team, one of them, I wouldn't expect them to beat him, because at that stage, Nadal is so used to that occasion and he will have completely just warmed up into his groove. It will be on court Philippe Chatrier, which is his favourite. The conditions there just suits his game down to the ground. So he's just very much the strong favourite to win, as per usual. So, hi, do you think Isner is overlooked? Oh, it's like I've already answered that question without actually seeing it. Mind reader. Hey, yes. I don't think Isner has been overlooked really, because I've heard his name mentioned a lot since he won Miami. He's actually, I've noticed a few people saying that he could be the one to push Nadal or beat Nadal. Another really good win for him today over Pierre-Hugues Herbert. Both of them had really clean statistics by the end of the match. There was like at least a +20 differential, winners to enforced errors for both of them. But Isner still won that one in straight sets. So if Isner's serve is on, then if he actually got to the stage where he was playing Nadal, then that could be a very interesting clash. I mean, Nadal's had trouble with big servers before. The clay is supposed to neutralize that a bit, but if there is a big server there who, in the form that Isner has, because he's playing good tennis, then who knows what could happen. I don't understand the question. Would you rather sunrises or sunsets? Like, just in general. I like sunsets. I take a lot of pictures of sunsets, if that answers the question. My siblings were always annoyed with me because when we go out, I just stop and take random pictures of the sky. Off topic. What have we got here? Do you wish that Wimbledon and Roland Garros had a more significant gap? Like, yes, 100% actually. I think that the French Open and Wimbledon are so close together, and that has the impact of shortening the grass court season, and I think it's inexcusable that the grass court season is so short. I definitely disagree with that. In my mind, the season should be separated into 3 equal parts, so equal part hard courts, equal part clay courts, equal part grass courts. And I sat down at one point and looked at the calendar, and it seemed feasible to make it at least roughly the same amount of time for each segment of the season. There would be a few countries that would protest that they couldn't host a grass court tournament because of the upkeep and that kind of thing, but I think it's doable to at least extend the grass court season. Wimbledon was pushed back a week a couple of years ago now, 3 years ago maybe. It was pushed back. It might have been a good idea to push it back a week this year, because it collides with the World Cup, Football World Cup, FIFA World Cup final, so that's not ideal. But yes, I do wish there was more of a gap between the French Open and Wimbledon, whether that means taking the French Open forward a bit or taking Wimbledon back a bit, or a bit of both. And just extending the clay court and grass court parts of the seasons, especially grass, because they're just gone in a flash completely. Yeah, sorry if my voice kind of gets, I don't know, weird. I didn't bring any water up, so I'm a bit stuck in that regard. Let's see. Yes, Rafa will win, but it is still interesting to see how things play out along the way. I feel this. A lot of people were saying before Dominic Thiem beat Nadal at, I'm losing track of where it was now. It was in Madrid. It was in Madrid. A lot of people were saying how boring it was, that Nadal was dominating, why can't something happen, or the ATP is so rubbish right now, all that kind of thing. But to me, it's always interesting to watch a player dominating, A, because it's not going to last forever for anyone, so I always think you should appreciate it in the moment, but also I like to assess and analyze how they managed to do it, because to dominate a sport like tennis for so long, and especially if you're doing it solo like Nadal is on clay, is a really big thing, and it shows a lot of talent, and you really got to know your game so well, and just be so at home on the surface, and it's just incredible to watch Nadal, whether he's on the front foot or the back foot, turning it around, using the tools that he has, and showing such mental strength as well as physical strength, because there are situations in matches he can be in where it can look like he's steadily going down, and then he just kind of pulls something amazing out of the bag. And his awareness of like timing and different things in matches, and his knowledge of when it's a key moment, and his ability to produce at that point in time is just so impressive. So I can never really get tired of seeing Nadal dominate. It's not going to happen forever, and it's just amazing that he's sustained that over such a long length of time. So, well, someone here wants Serena Williams to win the title, and I have to say that at this point in the tournament, it looks very likely that that could happen. Before the tournaments, I mean, Serena Williams is the greatest in terms of physically in her tennis and mentally the way she deals with situations. And I was fully aware at the beginning of the tournament that she could easily go and win the whole thing. These stages and the big occasions bring the best out of her, whatever form she's in. Many years ago now at the Australian Open, she hadn't played in a long time, she wasn't fit, she hadn't been invested in her tennis, and she was unseeded, came into the draw, she heard everybody writing her off, and she just produced her best. And, well, she produced her best fights and her utter desire to win anyway, and that was enough to get her to the title. And I believe she smashed Maria Sharapova in the final. I think I've got that one correct. It was at least the semi-finals anyway. But she has that killer instinct that is just so rare, really, in tennis. She knows what she wants and she gets what she wants, and over the course of this tournament, we've seen her coming through those two tougher matches at the beginning against Kristina Pliskova, where she was just still a bit rusty, and then against Ashley Barty, where Barty played some really creative, great tennis. And that was especially the 3-set one against Barty was very good for Serena because it gave her that extra time on court. It helped her to dig herself out of actually quite a dangerous situation where she was assessing a breakdown, and once she got back on serve, she didn't really look back. Against Pliskova, she just rose in the key moments. In, for example, that first set tiebreak, her serve came to see her out of trouble. And then playing doubles with Venus as well is very much a help for her at the moment because it does give her that extra match play, and just everything like that is very helpful to her. And I think it just came together again came together today. I've got to slow down or I can't speak properly. Against Julia Gerges, who was seeded 11, is a very good player on any surface and often underrated. And she was just, I said before actually, not in the manner of 2013 where she just annihilated everyone, but she was very professional, very businesslike. Yes, she had some misses going on. She was going for her shots and making unforced errors occasionally. Yes, she was wrong-footed a few times, but on the whole, she won the big points, and it was a pretty straightforward straight sets victory for Serena. I think she got her serve broken once and she was broken back. So definitely at the present moment, it looks increasingly likely that Serena could win the title. Plays Maria Sharapova next, who she has beaten 19 times and lost to only twice, which was now 14 years ago that she last lost to her, which might be longer than some of the people watching this live stream have been alive. So it does get annoying, to be honest, the way this particular clash is bigged up just because of Sharapova's status in the sport and obviously the kind of tensions that have supposedly been between the two of them over the many years since they first played in 2004. And I've always felt throughout the rival, I'm not going to use that word, throughout their head-to-heads and their career, that too much emphasis is placed on this matchup because often, for example, in the 2012 final of the Olympics, Serena came out and smashed her up. She was dominant, she was nailing everything, and she just has that extra seemingly extra motivation against Sharapova, and this would be the best opportunity since 2004, I'd say, for Sharapova to get a win over Serena, because obviously Serena's just coming back. She's given birth. She hasn't played a ton of tournaments coming into this event. This is her first clay court event. But you have to remember that Sharapova has not performed to standard either since she came back from the drugs ban last year. She's just beginning to find her good tennis again. She came through from 3-love down in the final set of her opening round match against Rochelle Hogenkamp. So she's rounding into form. She thrashed Karolina Pliskova today in dominant fashion. Pliskova is going to have to take a lot of lessons from that match, because as the world number 6, she should not have been losing that easily on a surface that she has been playing very well on. She needs to pinpoint a few things and work on them, such as her movement. It's hard for her as a tall player to have great movements, but it was really pinpointed today, and she was kind of pulled apart when she wasn't self-destructing. So yeah, I've gone off track, but yes, I fully expect, or I say fully, I do expect Serena to win her next match, and I think that as the tournament progresses, she will just get stronger and stronger, and her fight has already got her through matches, and she's beginning to find her form. So for any Serena fans, that win today against Gerges was good news. Ooh, I've missed a few. Question. I think this is asking who will win Roland Garros, men and women. Well, I've always said Rafael Nadal to win this year. My official prediction to win this year was Petra Kvitova. It's so difficult to predict the women's event because it can go any way. For example, players like Garbiñe Muguruza, who was nowhere of note prior to the tournament, is suddenly playing really aggressive, precise tennis and looking in the kind of form that took her to the title in 2015. So it is especially hard to predict the women's tournament, because when Serena is not on top, there is no one dominating the game the way Nadal does in the men's events on clay. So I went with Kvitova, but in the same thing that I predicted Kvitova to win in, which was for a predictions challenge thing on my friend's website, I predicted Serena as my dark horse, which basically meant that if Kvitova goes out, I think Serena will win the thing. And it's looking fairly likely at the moment. However, there are players like Garbiñe Muguruza who are definitely showing they have the form and the ability to get that done. I mean, if Sharapova somehow comes past Serena, she has as good as a chance as anybody. Trying to think of Simona Halep. Good win against Andrea Petkovic today. She was missing chances, but she pulled out that first set before Petkovic got injured, and then after Petkovic got injured, she showed real commitment to her game plan and focus, wasn't distracted to roll through that second set. So whether she could have played better or not, I think that's a win that will give Halep confidence. So Simona Halep on there as well, and yeah, there are a number of players who could do something special. Wow. Someone says Pliskova was still angry about that umpire thing. Lol. Lol indeed. Hopefully she's over that one by now. Did you expect Alina Svitolina to lose at this stage? Interesting one. Despite Svitolina's defense of her Rome title, which I thought was great, for a woman to defend a Premier mandatory title and that woman not be named Serena Williams is a rare thing. And Svitolina is so often ignored in favor of bigger stories and more popular names, but she's actually a really good all-around player, and I think it was great that she managed to defend Rome. But I've said for the last couple of weeks, it's kind of just dawned on me that players such as Simona Halep and Alina Svitolina, who are fairly consistent away from Grand Slam stages, the more consistent they become on the lower rungs of the tour, the harder it then is for them to break through at a major event. So that's why I didn't predict either Svitolina or Halep to win the title this year, because I just think for both of them, maybe it's the self-expectation that they have to perform at a major event. Maybe it's just the whole pressure of the occasion that they're not used to handling at the moment. I mean, Halep was well on her way to winning that French Open final last year. She was a set and a break up, and then she just, I think she smashed her racket or something, or showed frustration, and Ostapenko was right back in it, and she just identified that mental weakness and took full advantage. So, I mean, Halep's still in the running. This could be the tournament where she turns it around, but just something said that Svitolina just wasn't quite ready to handle the mental aspects of it. But Mihaela Buzarnescu has been getting some really good results this year, and I think she definitely made a final at her first event of the year, and she's been progressing well, so you can't take anything away from her. She's still in the doubles as well and doing pretty well there. But I hadn't made a specific prediction as to how far Alina Svitolina would get, but I didn't expect her to go terribly deep into the tournament, no. Mertens looks really good today. How excited are you for the rematch against Halep? She was ill and tired at the match in Madrid, so it will be interesting to see this time what will happen with a healthy Mertens. Interesting. I think it's a good matchup of styles, really, because both of them have a very complete game, and Mertens has the ability to be more aggressive. Halep can do that too, you know. She demonstrated some great attacking tennis against Petkovic today. Petkovic was put on the defense a lot, and even though they were having long exchanges, Halep was generally the player going for more, I guess, and really kind of going for her marks, not afraid to close into the net either. She was showing a lot of confidence in coming forward and in her ability to do that. So yeah, I think that could be a really good match with Mertens and Halep, and I'd probably think that Halep would come through given her greater experience, and her partnership with Darren Cahill is just great. He does so much good for her, and I think that the fact that they stuck together through some really tough periods just shows how much of a help he is to her and how much of a good connection there is there. And I would think that Halep would probably come through, but it is actually quite tough to call given Mertens' ability. So that's definitely one to watch. Lesia Sorenko is a decent player, but in the form that Muguruza has. I mean, I've hardly seen any of Muguruza, to be honest, but she's just been soaring through her matches, and I know exactly how she can play on this particular surface. If she could just keep that mindset and that aggression and that determination the entire year, there is no reason why she could not be consistently top 2 in the women's game. But that's part of the game, having the head game and the consistency as well as the physical ability, and that's what separates the best from the good, really. So yeah, that's the thing with Halep. She does have a weaker serve compared to some other players, and it's definitely a point that players have tried to attack and exploit. It's something that she has been working on though, so credit to her for that. I don't think there's been as much improvement in recent times. There was a one point where there were distinct improvements, but yeah. Someone's predicting a Rafael Nadal versus Novak Djokovic final. I think a lot of people would like to see that. Djokovic has won 3 matches pretty well now. He dropped a set against Roberto Bautista Agut, and reportedly showed some frustration. He can't really win sometimes, Djokovic. People complain about him not showing emotion and then not really looking invested, and then he shows emotion and shows that he is invested. And I mean, it's not great to smash your racket and do that kind of thing, but make up your mind. Do you want him to show emotion or don't you? But yeah, Djokovic has been looking good, but he hasn't really faced a challenging player yet. For example, last year at the French Open, he wasn't in great form, but he seemed to be doing pretty well. He made the quarterfinals, and then Dominic Thiem tore him to pieces, and he hasn't come up against a player with the caliber of Thiem yet. So it's kind of a waiting game with Djokovic to see whether it's for real, because over the past few weeks we've seen dips and rises. So we'll see with Djokovic. It was around this point yesterday that the stream crashed, or not yesterday, the day before yesterday. So I may draw it to a close within the next couple of minutes, but we'll see if anyone else has any questions. Any surprises today? Didn't have time to watch. I can appreciate. I was traveling a lot of yesterday. In fact, most of the day I was out, and a lot of that time was spent traveling, hence why I'm a bit tired now. So yeah, I can fully appreciate it's difficult with a Grand Slam, so many matches going on, it's just so hard to keep track. But yeah, I would say the biggest surprises today the biggest surprise today was probably Kvitovva's loss to Kontaveit, although she has been playing really well, so it depends what your expectations were for Kvitova today. Does anyone have any other matches that they thought were particularly surprising? I'd be interested to hear if you think so. Yeah, someone agreeing that Halep doesn't quite have the Grand Slam mindset. It's something that can be developed. It's just getting used to the occasion and practicing. But at the same time, if you play too much and have too many opportunities that you miss, that can start to play on your mind and just make the whole thing 10 times harder. So Halep needs a breakthrough pretty soon before it becomes too much of a mental barrier, I think. Nadal might win the French Open without dropping a set. Looks possible. Well, halfway through his first set against Richard Gasquet today, it looked like he might win a golden set, which is winning a set without losing a point. So yes, Nadal looking pretty dominant, and it's possible. It is possible. I think he won last year without dropping a set. Thrashed Stan Wawrinka in the final, which, I mean, last year feels so recent, but when you think of poor Stan Wawrinka struggling with injury in a Grand Slam final, it actually feels like quite a fair while ago. Oh, interesting question. I was surprised Goffin pulled out the win against Gael Monfils. What do you think of David Goffin getting to the final? Well, Goffin is a very talented player. I mean, everyone had to take notice of that last year when he upset Roger Federer at the ATP finals. I just, maybe it's wrong of me, but I just never expect Goffin just to make the final. I think he is talented, and to an extent he has good composure and a good mentality on court, but I think there are just always players that are that bit better than him. So for Goffin to make the final, I would think that other results would have to happen in the rest of the draw to make that a possibility. He could prove me wrong. But I mean, it's tennis, you know, anything could happen. Rafael Nadal could get beaten. So yeah, I'm sorry, I go a lot. I'm kind of playing for time. It's like, well, maybe, okay, whatever. So that's, yes. Which player do you think has the hardest draw? Everyone in the half opposite Nadal, but also everybody in the half with Nadal, because in order to make the final, they have to get past him. So that's for the men's draw anyway. But the thing is, in the half opposite to Nadal, there are a lot of big name players and players who are in pretty decent form. Although I have to say that players such as Alexander Zverev, he's had to fight through 2 5-set matches now, and he hasn't really come to the big name opponents. So it will be interesting to see how he deals with that. Dominic Thiem was pushed a bit by Stefanos Tsitsipas. Djokovic still not sure of until he comes up against a big name player. So it will be very interesting to see how that plays out. In the women's draw, the quarter containing Serena Williams and Maria Sharapova and Karolina Pliskova was pretty packed, so that was probably the toughest section of that particular draw. Yeah, Djokovic has the hardest draw, someone says. He definitely has one of the hardest, I would say. Yeah, Gael Monfils, the man with all the missed opportunities. Definitely, this isn't the first Grand Slam match he's lost when having multiple match points. I'm not sure if anyone remembers his clash with Roger Federer at the US Open in 2014. Federer would lose his next match to Marin Cilic, so big missed opportunity for Monfils in that one, where he had match points in the fourth set, I believe, and lost in 5. What about Wozniacki? Good question. What about Caroline Wozniacki? Not often a player whose name I'm thinking of a lot when we come to clay, but she has a decent draw, and she has a game style that should really fit the conditions of clay, being a counterpuncher, supposedly being, sorry, that sounded degrading, supposedly, but being more consistent in terms of rallying and than some players. If she can get that right balance between consistency and being a bit more attacking, because a player like Wozniacki can become a bit predictable. And I've always felt, because someone, when I was on the radio actually near the beginning of the tournament, one of the presenters said to me, "Oh, what about Caroline Wozniacki?" And I was like, "Oh, well, maybe not." But because I just feel that if she were to come up against a big name, that would be the point where the tournament ends for her. So I wouldn't be predicting Wozniacki to win the thing, but then again, I wouldn't have been predicting her to win the Australian Open either, and she took advantage of a good draw there. So yes. Semis predictions from somebody here: Nadal versus Del Potro and Thiem versus Djokovic. Yeah, could definitely happen, given all of their matches to date and how they've been handling them. Yep, Serena has to get through Sharapova, Muguruza, and Halep, and possibly Wozniacki in the final. Given, yeah, I mean, given that they're pretty big names and can all play on clay to an extent, that's a pretty tough draw for someone coming back after so much time out. I wouldn't call myself a radio star, no. I'm the tennis correspondent for Love Sport Radio, so giving them a plug now. Lovesportradio.com. If you don't live in the UK, you can listen to it online. They run shows every single day. If you like sports, then listen to Love Sport Radio. I'm on at different times. It just depends when they call me and want me on. So sometimes I'm up really early to go on the breakfast show. Sometimes I'm afternoon, sometimes I'm evening. I was on earlier today. So I usually put on social media, on my Instagram and on my Twitter, both of them are Abigail Tennis, when I'm going to be on. So if you see that, then tune in, and don't be so hard on me if it's prior to 7 a.m. If I say something wrong, probably because I'm tired, which is a great excuse. Never heard of Love Sport. They're a new radio station. They started in March, it was, based in London. They're growing fast. It's all good. They're great people behind it, doing a good job. Wozniacki said recently she's not big on the sliding aspects of clay, likes to stop and go quickly. I should be more aware of what the players are saying. Sometimes I feel like I'm on top of things, and then someone will come at me with a quote I just haven't heard. So yeah, I can see that with Wozniacki. It takes a lot to get used to with the sliding on the clay. Honestly, some of the freak accidents I've seen, I would be so scared of sliding on the clay and kind of coming up against something and then oh, I don't know. I just always think of the worst. It's FM radio Love Sport, I think. I've never actually listened to it on the radio. I usually listen to it online because that's just what I do. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's FM radio. Right, I think we're going to round that one up there. Thank you for everybody watching. This brings us to the end of the first week of the French Open. Time flies when you're having fun. So if you want me to continue to do these live streams at the end of each round, then let me know. I leave it in the comments after I've finished the video, because I was planning to do some preview and predictions videos next week, which tend to take a bit longer because I pre-record and edit and upload, and it just it takes ages. So I might not be able to keep doing both, but if you want it to continue, then I'll try and keep doing them. Someone's keen. Okay, I might keep doing them then. Uh, so yeah, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that. It would be very helpful to me just in terms of giving it more time and growing it, because yeah, so it would be helpful if you subscribed if you haven't. Anything else? Yes, things have slowed down a bit on my website, but I'm definitely going to be keeping it up over the next few weeks, and especially reporting from tournaments and that kind of thing. So that's thetennisjournal.org. Obviously, I'll be on the radio from time to time, so follow me on social media, Abigail Tennis, Twitter and Instagram, and then I have a Facebook page and stuff. I'll put this all in the description like I usually do, but I've been a bit rubbish for filling out the descriptions on the live streams, so here we go. Oh, thank you, everyone. That's really nice. Yeah, I appreciate that you enjoy this, and it's nice to just kind of sit here and talk. So, yeah, hopefully it makes some kind of sense, because I don't prep for this. I just kind of come, see what you have to say, and just say it how I see it, really. And I can't watch every tennis match, so I'm sorry if there are any questions, which there have been, that I can't give detailed answers to, because haven't watched every player yet, and I can't keep an eye on every single match. It's difficult enough when sometimes I have two matches on computers, or one on the TV and one on a computer and one on my phone. So so it's quite difficult to keep it going. But yeah, Petkovic is gone. Like, what's all that about? I don't know. Oh, Petkovic says Halep plays old tennis. Do you think that's true? We'll just finish with that one. She must mean old school, which is more kind of like serve and volleying, I guess, which I don't see from Halep, to be honest. So I don't know. I guess you'd have to get a more in-depth definition from Andrea Petkovic on what she means by that. But anyway, before I keep sidetracking and procrastinating and whatever, thank you for watching. Very much appreciated. I'll try and do another live stream then at the end of round 4, which should be... Well, I'm thinking it's Monday evening. I don't film or record or write or anything on Sundays. Sunday is like my day off. So I will try and probably do another live stream on Monday, I guess. So, well, thank you for watching, everyone. Really appreciated. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a good time myself. And yeah, see you at the next video. Thank you for watching. And we'll turn this off. Bye then.